next. In roughly 60 days, our president-elect will be sworn in. For the first time in a decade, Republicans will hold the House, the Senate, and the White House. And President Trump will have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to remake America. Welcome to this Kelly Files Special 2016 in Focus. I'm Megyn Kelly in a special studio. I have a special thing to show you in a minute. Quiet. Surprise. It was roughly a month ago when then-candidate Donald Trump, down in the polls and all but done in the assessment of many media outlets, went to Gettysburg to give a Saturday speech. There he outlined a plan for his first 100 days in office with a focus on cleaning up Washington, protecting American workers, and what he called restoring the rule of law. He also talked about repealing Obamacare, building a border wall, and rebuilding our infrastructure. And his team says he's going to deliver.
Well, I think he's going to execute his plan. I mean, he talked about the things he wants to do: national security, immigration, the economy, 100-day plan, working with the Speaker and the leader of the U.S. Senate. All those things are really important. We have a mandate, and the American people decided to put the Republicans in control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, and that means that we now need to execute the will of the American people.
Joining me now, Dana Lash, host of Dana on the Blaze TV, along with Mark Thiessen, American Enterprise Institute scholar. And guess who else is here? It's not just those two. Wait for it. Chris Stirewalt, our Fox News digital politics editor, along with, look, Brian Kilmeade, co-host of Fox and Friends, and Julie Roginski, a Democratic analyst and Fox News contributor, all in our little Kelly File round table here tonight. So let's talk about first 100 days, because this is big, and he's got a full agenda that almost nobody listened to because they thought he was going to lose. Right. And as it turns out, there's a lot packed in there. A lot packed in there. You take it first, Chris. What do you think will be his first order of business?
Well, the first order of business, after he constitutes a government, which they're having to do, and I think you're right, I don't think even they expected to win. I don't even think they expected this coming down the pike, and I think this explains sort of the hurry-up offense that they're running on putting the government together. Once they get that done, though, he's made it pretty clear. Immigration, then massive infrastructural spending, and tax reform. And it looks like that's where they're going to tee it up. There's something for Democrats in the big spending. There's something for Republicans on tax reform. And then on immigration, that's his promise. That's the cornerstone of his campaign.
So what about all the spending that's going to go on infrastructure? Because, you know, the Republicans at their core really have objected to big government spending. That's been a black mark on George W. Bush's legacy, Mark.
Sure.
Can he get away with that?
Well, it's Obama's stimulus too, but he campaigned on it. I mean, Obama had $500 billion in unpaid for shovel-ready jobs, and Donald Trump said, we're going to have $500 billion. He didn't say unpaid for shovel-ready jobs, but that's what it is. It's Obama's stimulus too. They're probably, I think Paul Ryan and congressional Republicans are going to try and push to get it paid for. They're going to pair it.
Donald Trump says growth. We're going to have growth. I'm going to bring these jobs back, and that's going to create growth.
But he's going to pair it with tax reform, pro-growth tax reform, and so it'll be a little bit different than Obama's stimulus. But he wants to probably start out on a bipartisan note. So he wants to do something that the Democrats are going to get behind, some sort of a compromise. He'd probably be very smart also to push Ivanka Trump's child care initiative, because I think that's something that
you don't think he's making
you think
a big
Republicans are going to go for that?
No, I don't think
another entitlement.
That's an entitlement program.
I think that he's going to do that at some point for sure. And
I think so too.
It's because what's going to happen to start with is he's going to repeal a lot of Obama's agenda starting out. I mean, Obamacare. There's going to be a big fight about that. There's going to be a big fight there. There's the Congressional Review Act there's 150 Obama regulations on the chopping block ready to go. He's going to do that. Executive orders gone. Paris Treaty gone. There's going to be a lot of friction.
Just want to look over to see if a single tear is coming down.
Quite the opposite. Are you kidding? I'm getting excited. This is like a Democrat getting elected. Tell me more about stimulus. Tell me more. This is like the best news I've heard, because I don't think any Democrat would ever be able to get this through Paul Ryan-led House.
Oh, what?
But I'm going to sit back and laugh and laugh and laugh when Paul Ryan, this fiscally responsible, balanced budget Paul Ryan, is going to, as Speaker of the House, sign off on everything you just talked about. I'm going to sit back, open up a glass of wine, and sit back and laugh at all the Republicans out there who said this needs to be paid for, stimulus is a waste of time, it's all about balanced budgets, and here we go. This is going to make George Bush look like a piker with spending.
And you're going to laugh when Ted Cruz is on the Supreme Court?
And I'm going to laugh. Well, that's when the tear will come. You know what I love about that? the Senate's going to confirm him just to get him out of the Senate. You're going to have John McCain voting hands down.
And you'll
for
enjoy
Ted
that
Cruz.
for a cool 5 minutes before you're like, what?
Then I'm going to go into my
young man, and then Ted Cruz is, I think, 45 years old, very young.
I'll go into my nuclear bunker and wait.
Yeah. Use moisturizer. He's going to last. I would say this. I think the reason why infrastructure is going to work first, and I did watch two congressional leaders today try to rationalize how they're going to spend it, and it was something beyond growth, but I really couldn't keep up with it. But they say that, yeah, how they're going to actually pay for the $1 trillion infrastructure. He's going to do that for this reason: is that the thing about Donald Trump is what every Republican hated about it, and most of the people that you walk around that didn't vote for him, but somehow he won, is he is going to make deals with Democrats. Going to start right away. I read that he's already spoken to Chuck Schumer 3 times. Yeah. So if they actually want to repeal and replace Obamacare, they need 60 votes. They have 52 senators. So how are they going to do that? Maybe he says, listen, I'm going to give you some infrastructure spending. The babysitter has left. Barack Obama has left. The Clintons have quit. So now you have a chance to actually govern. Mm-hmm. So if you want to have a day in which you could say, vote me back, get me my majority in the Senate, you got to cooperate. And Chuck Schumer is a deal maker. I know you got to keep an eye on him. But if you go, give me this, you give me infrastructure, Donald Trump, and I'll give you repeal and replace Obamacare, perhaps. And the first thing they'll do is a defense supplemental, because we're starving to death. Our equipment's falling apart. We're going to need another 50,000 Marines in there. We're going to get bolster up the Army. And I think with the National Security Advisor, with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, he's going to make sure of it. That's how we're going to do it. I think the first thing is infrastructure to get Democrats involved.
Now you're talking about a lot of money, right? You're talking about infrastructure spending.
There needs to be a lot of red meat given, though, to the people who went out and were voting for Trump. A lot of red meat policy, a lot of red meat things need to be repealed. For instance, yes, repeal Obamacare. I hear everyone says replace. Replace it with what? Yeah. Do we need to replace it with anything? Why don't we just have instead, let's repeal Obamacare and let's let everybody be able to get something that they can take, its portability, have insurance companies be able to compete so that people get lower prices. That I would love that. I would also love to see.
But the problem is on that is that Trump wants to keep the pre-existing condition.
Yeah, sure. There's ways that you can.
He wants to make sure that people who have pre-existing conditions can still, get insurance and won't be stopped. And they're talking about creating these high-risk pools. You'd have to go sort of in that. Which I don't know. I mean, Dr. Zeke Emanuel, who he likes the original because he drafted it.
Of course he does.
Very inefficient.
He is a wonderful conversational man.
He's kind of growing on me. He's kind of growing on me, I have to say.
I mean, he trashes a lot of the economy. Great conversationalist, though. But no, I think if Trump is able to throw a lot of red meat to the Republican base, to conservatives, to voters, to conservatarians, however you want to define them, I think that they will forgive him a couple of things, because that just seems to be the mood of voters.
An extra $1 trillion in spending?
I know. I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I'm just saying I think that would be the mood of the country to say, okay, well, we were able to get all of this stuff.
You know what he might
Here's
do,
one
though,
thing
Dana?
for
What he might do is say, I'm not going to give you $1 trillion. I saw with Barack Obama, when he gave everyone money, they went ahead and renewed their state workers that they couldn't afford, and these shovel-ready projects he admitted didn't happen. I think he's smart enough to know what Obama did last time. He's going to want to know, okay, who's building the Hoover Dam again? Who's coming up? Who's coming up with this canal? I want to know what the projects are you're going to be spending on.
But wait a minute. The basic story of the presidency, and Mark knows this, is not what you want to do, it's how you react to what happens. Right. George W. Bush was going to be a caretaker president with a bipartisan domestic agenda focused on issues like education. And then he was reading My Pet Goat, and that thing happened. And it changed the world, and it changed history. His reaction to events was more important than his agenda coming in. So what we forget is that the presidency, yes, is an active office, but basically it is. You are the receiver of all of the bad news and of all of the things that happen. And his 100 days.
We can't know what's going to happen in that 100 days. But I want to get to the mother lode, if you will, which is immigration. Absolutely. Right? You're talking about red meat for the base. I mean, Ann Coulter and Laura Ingraham and Mickey Kaus are expecting the immigration promises that were made to be fulfilled.
And there's already a fight right now over wall or fence, because apparently at some point there was made mention of, well, some of it's going to be a fence, and people were thinking, we wanted a wall. We didn't want a fence.
I mean, realistically, you can't. Why?
He's already backed off it. He's already
of the fence.
He had done that before.
That's not going to be the big problem. Building a wall and having a fence at Players is not going to be the big problem. The deportations.
No, that's not going to be a problem.
That's not going to be a problem.
Look, here, I'm going to make a prediction here. Donald Trump is going to give the Democrats their dream of comprehensive immigration reform. It's not going to be comprehensive. It's going to be sequential. But he has said that his plan is to they all have to go home, but they can come back in an expedited fashion. That's a policy
The
called
good ones, he
it's
says.
the good ones, which is most of the 11 million.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is for the legalization of almost all of the 11 million people who are here legally. He just said on 60 Minutes the other night, they're good people. They're good people. What he's going to do is he's going to require them to go home, get a special visa, and get an expedited return. But they're good. But he's going to do it in a way, and he will have done. He'll do the border security first, and he'll have gotten that, and the Republican Party will go along with it.
Wait a second. You're saying that these people are going to self-deport on the promise that they can get expedited back?
Yes, absolutely.
First of all, they're not. And
They
secondly, I was promised a big, beautiful wall paid for by Mexico. I expect it.
Yeah.
And a lot of his voters expect it. And the problem here is when you have Newt Gingrich coming out and saying, oh, this is just a campaign device. He didn't really mean it about having Mexico pay for it. Well, there are a lot of people out there who voted for him and were chanting, build that wall, have Mexico pay for it. You got to keep your promise. He's going to have Mexico pay for it, and he's going to build a big, beautiful wall.
They already backed off that. We're going to pay for it, and then we're going to sort of send Mexico the bill. Right. But we have to leave it there, as scintillating as this is, because we have a lot more we have to get in. Also tonight, the story of how the Democrats may be about to seriously punish one of their own. Plus, new details on just how bad 2016 turned out for the media. And then a closer look at the folks who gave Mr. Trump the White House and what they may get in return. Don't go away.
We are going to put the miners and the factory workers and the steel workers back to work. We're bringing our companies back.
That was Donald Trump appearing in Scranton, Pennsylvania, the day before he won that state in the presidential election, along with Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and other Rust Belt states where millions of the blue-collar workers who had supported President Obama twice this time went for the Republican. So, are the concerns of those folks now driving the political agenda in this country? Back with us now, Dana Lash, Mark Thiessen, Chris Stirewalt, Brian Kilmeade, and Julie Roginski. So that's the question, whether these are the new power brokers of America.
Absolutely, and they're easy to get. To me, we're going to start making coal. We're going to start mining coal again. And here's what I've heard, and I'm not an energy expert, but I do know this: coal can be made into oil. And I also think that there's plenty of customers outside our borders for coal. The problem coal has is natural gas is booming, and natural gas is a competitor.
Oh.
But if you could start exporting coal to customers that are waiting for it, as opposed to going elsewhere, these states not only will go to Donald Trump this time, next time they'll stay in the Republican
Brian
column.
Kilmeade, I love you like a brother, but that's not how that goes. So making coal into oil is called liquefaction, and it can be done. It's not cost effective because oil is real cheap right now, relatively speaking. The reason that the coal industry has been in the can is because of environmental regulations on the burning of coal to produce electricity. That's what it's for. We have all this delicious, beautiful, gorgeous West Virginia coal, the finest in the world, that burns great and makes electricity. We used to make more than half of our electricity in the country with it, and we've been shoving it down because of new mandates to burn natural gas, but also to use windmills and other sources of renewable energy. These voters, if you look at the map, if you do a heat map of where the counties are that had the biggest switch from Obama to Trump, the very counties you were talking about in your introduction, it is like gravity around the Great Lakes. It is the intensity around the Great Lakes, basically from Buffalo all the way around to Milwaukee. And it just, the center of gravity around these Great Lakes and the Rust Belt and these former industrial communities, we're looking at counties that went 25 points.
Well, what's your point?
My point is, it ain't just coal. It's about people who have seen their communities ravaged by opioid addiction. This is about communities where the schools are broken, the churches are empty, the families aren't functioning, people are desperate. They voted for Obama because they wanted change. They voted for Trump for the same reason.
So, but what does that mean as a practical matter? Like, what does that change look like for these folks?
I mean, because I agree with everything that you just said. It's not, and the book that I wrote in June gets into why Donald Trump actually won the white working class blue collar voter. Some of it's coal, some of it's jobs, some of it's trade, but we have to think too, these are individuals who Now, my family this is my family. This demo, all my family are Southern Missouri. They're all Ozark voters. You know, they all talk like this.
I was going to say, I just heard it come in on you.
She slipped right into it.
Came right in on you.
That's how they live. But they are good people, and they were tired of being abused by the Democrat Party. It's amazing to me that this is the demographic that Bill Clinton, that Al Gore, that the Democrat Party of the 1990s, they relied upon these people. They exploited these people for votes. They used these people. They paid them lip service. Now here we are in 2016, and they're struggling. How are we going to pay our bills? We can't afford health care. We can't put food on our table. And you're talking to me about what pronoun I should use? Mm-hmm. You're telling me what bathroom my children should, where my kids can go to the bathroom? That wasn't putting food on the table. This whole conversation about transgender everything and everything going on in the Carolinas, none of that's putting food on these people's tables, and they were done with it.
You know, you raised such a good point, because, and I've done a lot of soul searching. I think a lot of Democrats have too. I've said this before. The problem for my party has become, and I take full responsibility for this myself because I think I've been condescending about it as well, as a lot of Democrats and a lot of people, including me, don't sit around worrying about putting food on the table. We don't sit around. We can go ahead, and I've gone on TV 100 times talking about how great Obamacare is and how wonderful it is and how it's expanding opportunities for health care for people. But it's not taking a larger chunk out of my paycheck to the point where I have to decide whether to put food on the table or pay higher premiums. Talking about how the economy is getting better because people's stock market portfolios are getting better. But it's not getting better for a lot of the people, Dana, that you talked about. And I think the problem for the Democrats are they were selling a narrative to their coastal elites. And I take full responsibility for doing that as well. I did it for 2 years before I realized that those coastal elites are completely out of touch with exactly the people, Chris, that you talked about, which are the people
anyway.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've never been there, but I love them back.
And every time a celebrity talked, I think it was a repellent instead of it.
The Democrats, they don't get that at all. We try out Lena Dunham and even Lady Gaga, and it's having exactly the opposite effect of the one you're intending.
And they doubled down on it because these people were good enough to vote for the Clintons, but they're racist because they voted for Trump, and they hear that message. I mean, that's what they heard over and over again.
And they have their power in the voting booth.
And they heard they were deplorable. They heard that they're bitter people who cling to guns and God and don't like people who are like them. And then for all the last 8 years, Barack Obama has been telling them how unemployment is down to record levels. The problem is that the labor participation rate is so low because millions of people have left the workforce because they just gave up looking for jobs. But the way so these people, this is something when you're in the White House and you're writing speeches like I did for Bush, what you say when you're the president has to actually comport with what's happening on the ground. So I could have, in 2006, I could have written speeches about Iraq and said, we're winning, we're turning the battle around, and people saw things blowing up on their cameras and said, no, it's not getting better. It was only when the surge happened that people started listening to those speeches. And it's the same thing with the economy. When the president steps out and says the economy is getting better, we've got X million jobs created and all the rest, and you're sitting there, and it's not comporting with your reality, you reject it.
See, my problem is you guys just pointed out everything that they want. But Donald Trump is not Zeus. He can't make all of this stuff happen.
Whoa. That's not what I've heard.
That's not what he thinks, by the way.
That's not what I've heard.
He would disagree with you, Brian.
I was going to say, fact check.
No, but he can't go ahead and get drugs get drugs away from your teenagers.
Right.
He can't give you all raises. He can't make health care better. Your doctors perform more adequately and make the surgery come out great. What he could do is give you opportunity to be successful.
Right.
He's got to make it clear. I'm not going to make everything better. I'm going to give you an opportunity to make your lives better. The overall arching theme now that he got the job is you have to do it yourself. I'm going to give you the opportunity.
But one of the ways in which he has said he's going to do that is he's going to take care of manufacturing, right? He's going to place tariffs on goods that are made out by American companies outside of our borders. And the reality of that, according to the economists, is it's actually just going to
make things worse.
It's going to make things worse.
I don't want to pay $5 for a cucumber.
I don't want to lose all the dollar stores.
So if you're one of those workers,
Walmart.
If you're one of those workers who's been out of work and dropped out of the workforce, and he puts a 45% tariff on goods coming from China, guess what? Your prices in Walmart just went up 45%.
Right.
So what you're paying is going to go up.
In 2012, Newt Gingrich got in big trouble when he said of Paul Ryan's proposed changes to entitlement programs, he said right-wing social engineering is no more attractive to voters than left-wing social engineering. He got in huge trouble for saying it. He was right. He was right.
Well, that's why he got in trouble.
He may be the Trump whisperer now, and so we'll see whether he pushes him off of these positions. Okay, also tonight, see how the election meltdown is affecting America's college campuses. Take a guess. Plus, the media versus Trump. And this fight may be just getting started. Stay tuned.
Oh, boy. See the dishonest people back there, the media, the totally dishonest. They are so dishonest.
All I want to say is that anybody, from the Democratic side of the fence, who thinks that who's terrified of the possibility of President Trump, better vote, better get active, better get involved, because this man has got some momentum, and we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket.
Next, I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
Hysterical.
In the history of not seeing it coming, there are few moments quite like the 2016 White House campaign, as you just saw. In fact, the one thing everyone now seems to agree on, not only did the Democrats lose big, but much of the media also took a serious hit. That's where we pick it up with Dana Lash, Mark Thiessen, Chris Direwalt, Brian Kilmeade, and Julie Roginski. It wasn't just that they got it wrong, right? I mean, I feel like the pollsters said the one thing, and that's what the media went with. It was the complete dismissal of him and his chances and the people who supported him right from the beginning.
Harambe got 11,000 write-in votes. I read.
Harambe is?
The gorilla.
Don't insult the spirit of Harambe.
Are you kidding
Brian
me?
Kilmeade.
There's a people out there who don't know.
Rest in
the
peace,
gorilla they had to
Harambe.
kill in the zoo. Because the
Had
kids
to. I had to. Okay, that's your call. That's your call. Okay, fine. Very controversial.
Do we have a gorilla expert that can break this down?
I was saying that Democrats didn't take serious. So Hillary Clinton is an imperfect candidate. You know who else is an imperfect candidate? Every human being who has ever run for elective office in their life. She was more imperfect than some others. But Democrats felt off the hook that they didn't have to go vote. So you look at these states. How did it happen in the upper Midwest? How did this happen? The Obama coalition didn't turn out in the big cities.
Yeah.
The rural counties and small towns went, in some cases, 20 points from Obama to Trump and wiped out the strongholds. And as in the end, Trump broke even with suburban white voters, especially women who came his way as late breakers at the end of the campaign. They won because Democrats felt either too good to vote for Hillary Clinton or that they weren't concerned enough, and that attitude hurt her.
But, okay, so you're telling me, your point is that the media was alienating those people as well, that the media didn't take them into account.
The point is that Democrats didn't take Trump seriously, and as a consequence, didn't go march to keep him out of office.
Neither did Republicans, though. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I know, and he ate Jeb Bush like a Tic Tac.
But there was something else going on here, which was that the media, the mainstream media, was so horrified at the prospect of a Trump presidency that they completely ignored the fact that Hillary Clinton was the most corrupt person to run for president in modern history. I mean,
they dismissed that. They seemed to dismiss that as Republican fantasy.
Exactly. What the exit polls showed, 54% of voters said that Hillary Clinton was corrupt, not dishonest. They said, in fact, more said she was dishonest. 54% said they were corrupt. And so I think Americans were appalled at the way that the elites in Washington and the media were willing to overlook the Clinton Foundation, the lies about the emails, the let's do special favors for friends of Bill and all this other stuff that they were just, they wanted to send a message to the country.
Let's do a fact check on that, because the New York Times is the most mainstream of mainstream media, broke the email story and spent a lot of time on it.
Got bored on it quick.
No, it didn't. Listen, they ran that before anybody else did, broke that story. So I don't think that's fair. If you ask the Clinton people, they think, look, Barack Obama got the freest ride of all free rides back in 2008. Hillary Clinton, for 25 years, the media, look at Maureen Dowd, look at all these people who are the most mainstream of mainstream people. They kind of hate her. They don't. They may hate Donald Trump more. They may think he's totally unhinged. But I don't think she got the free ride that Obama got.
They were forced to talk about it in the final weeks because of WikiLeaks and James Comey.
It was going to happen.
They would have ignored it entirely for
They
the final
talked
month
about
of the
the email
campaign.
for
Mark, a couple of things. They had no choice. They had to kill Harambe. All right, because number two, and I'm going to stick with that story. Number two, Mark, just to build on your point, it's like as if the parents were telling the kids what was going on, and the kids were the voters. And when it became time to go in there and press the lever, they went and did the right thing. They didn't need the siphon and the strainer of the parents, which were the press, to define what was happening. America made their own decision by seeing both these candidates. They saw one guy that's a little off the hook and clearly unorthodox and unconventional, and they saw somebody else that didn't mean one thing she was saying and couldn't couldn't put a crowd together of over 200 people. So the audience made the decision without the press. They marginalized the press, who had two levels. The first press loved Donald Trump because they loved the ratings. And then after he got the nomination, they hated him.
They turned.
And he would refuse to knuckle under. He kept swinging. And it's like, why is this guy still swinging? He's crazy. And then people out there go, I love a guy that's going to fight for me. Maybe he's crazy enough to actually do something
Right, he's not
because nobody
beholden
else
to
did.
the media. He's not beholden to anybody.
All right, but I will say this, and I don't watch much cable news except for our channel, but because it's just right. But every time Donald Trump would have a press conference, you'd have wall-to-wall coverage because everybody was kind of worried about what he might say and they might miss it, right? If she had a press conference, if Jeb Bush had a press conference, or if she had any sort of press availability,
campaign events,
Right, so if she had a campaign event, or he had a campaign event, or if Jeb Bush had a campaign event, or any other Marco Rubio,
that is true.
We wouldn't go wall to wall, but we always, not just us, but I'm talking about the media, cable news, would go wall to wall.
This is an actual press conference. They would have gone wall to wall.
Absolutely. She never had press conferences.
But I'm talking about availability.
But it is absolutely true that we and others took Donald Trump press conferences, campaign events wall to wall, which we never would have done for another candidate because he was spectacular television.
And
very compelling. We on the Kelly File did not because we made a decision early on that while it was like crack cocaine, which I write about in Settle for More, we needed to step away from the crack. You just had to be responsible about it. It wasn't like don't cover Donald Trump, but you knew you were going to take a Scott Walker campaign rally wall to wall. Sorry, Mark, I know you like
even if you were doing crack, had to be fair.
I like what he made it into about his hotel.
Stand by. Also coming up, millennial voters and the road ahead. Plus, is Nancy Pelosi going to find herself as collateral damage in the fight for the White House? That's next.
Well, let me just say that, as I said, without even asking anybody for a vote, I have over 2/3 of the caucus supporting me.
It's the end of an era in Washington. And while that sounds like a terrible cliche, think about this. President Obama has just 60 days left in office. The Clintons have effectively been shown the door. Senator Harry Reid is retiring. And Nancy Pelosi is quickly losing her grip on power. In fact, it's been more than a decade since the Blue Party had been quite so out of power. Back with us now, Dana Lash, Mark Thiessen, Chris Stirewalt, Brian Kilmeade, and Julie Roginski. So I'll start with you on this, Julie. I mean, it's pretty brutal what's happened to the, icons of the Democratic Party. You tell me whether the Clintons are done. They're out. They're no longer
Can I tell
relevant.
you, I was at a dinner party with a Democratic elected official 2 nights ago who said, I think Chelsea should run.
Oh,
and I'm not kidding.
Oh, no.
And I said, are you kidding me? No, she's really capable. She's really qualified. I said, qualified for what?
Wow.
So that depressing fact aside, yes, I think it's time for the Clinton dynasty to go off into the sunset. I happen to think Bill Clinton was a very good president, but it's time. It's time to go. We need some new blood.
How about Nancy Pelosi?
Nancy Pelosi, when you're speaker, you're a minority leader, or you're able to give out a ton of goodies and a lot of money, and you're able to help out a lot of campaigns, and she's done that. And all these House members vote on personal relationships and what have you done for me lately.
So she's going to stay in.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm not sure who else has emerged to really challenge her. Look, she's
Tim Ryan.
So the Democrats.
I'm not sure if it's going to happen.
The Democrats just lost white working class voters in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, and solution is to re-elect a San Francisco Democrat.
But let me tell you the debate going on in the Democratic Party right now, and I don't have the answer to this question, but this is truly the debate. Is it that we double down on the Obama coalition? Is it that we try to get more millennials to come out? Is it that we try to get more African Americans to come out as they didn't this year? Is it that we try to get more Latinos to vote Democratic as they did not this year, the way they did for Obama, and focus on that Obama coalition, which is the growing demographic in this country? Or is it that we pivot to the white working class and try to address their needs the same way we used to during the Clinton years?
That's the big struggle.
And it's a big struggle.
Otherwise, you've lost the White House for generations.
Well, and nobody knows the answer to that question. And the question is, what's the demographic that's growing? And the demographic that's growing is the former, not the latter. The follow-up question.
You're talking about the millennials and so on.
The millennials and minorities. And so the follow-up question to that is, Donald Trump promised the white working class, as we talked about earlier, a lot of goodies. The reality is, I hate to break it, manufacturing is not coming back, not because he can't bring it back, but because technology has eradicated a lot of these jobs. Right. And when he doesn't deliver do those same people say, look, we gave you a shot, we voted for Obama because we wanted to hope and change?
That's the
that his
really
4
good
years
point
in
that not
office
a lot
would
of
be the
people
thing
make.
that does it? Like, you know how he said I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and they wouldn't leave me. How long does that last for him?
I don't know.
Could that possibly last, through all 4 years, even if he doesn't live up to his campaign promises because he's the outsider and he's just shaking things up?
It depends on what campaign promises he breaks. I mean, I think you're right. It's going to be very hard to bring back those jobs for working. I mean, those jobs from Mexico and China are not coming back.
Right.
And jobs from robots.
I mean, so many
robots,
automated,
really.
you can't
So, I mean,
do
it's
that
really
here.
important that Paul Ryan and the congressional Republicans come up with a real agenda that can work to help those working class voters. Because if the Republicans, because it's a team now, it's Ryan and Trump and everybody, if they can't deliver for those voters, then it's not going to last.
And you know what they got to see? They got to see an effort. They got to see a real effort in a program rather than just some money and
they
some
need a
talks and good
message.
speeches. They do have a pretty good message, but like you said, they have to produce. I think a couple of things are going to happen. For the Democrats, I think you got a problem. They did such a good job staying in line with whatever Barack Obama said. Not one personality emerged. Think about this. We know Rand Paul because he was brushing up against everybody, saying weird things on the cover of Time magazine.
Like in an okay way.
Ted Cruz,
Wasn't an inappropriate
yeah,
brushing.
no, yeah. Very good point. Very good point. He was always in somebody's face. Like, what was he saying the other day? I don't know.
Everybody.
What day
John
it is. This week
Bolton,
it's just flown by for me.
And Rudy Giuliani.
But what was he saying the other day? I don't want to see Rudy Giuliani,
John
Secretary of
Bolton.
State.
John Bolton.
And John Bolton either. So, okay, fine. What Democrat ever stood up and spoke out against Barack Obama?
What Republican did against George Bush? And the president
They
is the
all
leader of
did.
the
John
party.
McCain. Yes,
all of them did.
So what happens is you have no personality that have emerged. Now Keith Ellison has spoken up, but he seems very abrasive and angry. Terry McAuliffe had a smile on his face. He raised money. He had a personality. He had energy. The next person to lead the Democratic Party can't be Keith Ellison. He's angry about everything. He's already taken shots at
But their
Donald
party's
Trump.
angry,
Right.
though. They wanted the angry
not
old white
gonna
man
end.
with the posture of a cocktail.
Wait a second,
shrimp.
I'm
They
angry.
wanted that guy
Donald
to be
Trump
out
just
there
won. What's not to be angry about?
Screaming to everybody.
Maybe
He's
a
like-
jumbo
he was
shrimp,
like,
maybe a prawn.
No, but they're not to interrupt you, but they're Democrats. I don't know who they have on the bench. I
Cory
don't know.
Booker.
Have a bench.
They have Cory Booker, and then they have the Castro brothers who did the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap switch during a Riverwalk parade that the Houston Chronicle broke several years ago. They switched. One of them went to a fundraiser, and the other pretended to be the
Not
mayor.
bad.
That's
Awesome.
There's
If
an
I had a twin, I would totally do that
What's
too.
the problem But Republicans, they have such an amazing opportunity, but they have to explain to voters, and they have to be able to do more than just appeal to
By
that
the way,
white
with
working
Parent
class
Trap,
voter.
I got so confused. I forgot who was the adult and who was the kid.
Come on, that was a great
After
movie.
while.
Lindsay
I
Lohan
got
was
so
unbelievable.
confused, though.
It put her on the map, and
Right,
Dennis Quaid was adorable.
And then she left the
Gotta leave it
map.
at that.
Where is she?
Still ahead. Some behind-the-scenes stories from 2016, plus how the election is still rocking the little cupcakes on the college campuses. Don't go away. 10 days ago, Donald Trump won the presidency of the United States, prompting emotional reaction nationwide. Perhaps none greater than on the grounds of college campuses. Students' reactions ranged from protests to cry-ins.
Oh.
Cry-ins.
Golly.
Back now with our panel. So, wow. I mean, let me say this. You know, in New York City, we've seen some of this. I mean, I've had
smelled some.
I've had women like come up to me openly on the street in tears, and I think they just assume that because I'm a woman and I'm, obviously since Trump had that I'm gonna feel that way. I don't react as a journalist, but their pain is real. I will say that, and it's fun to diminish it, but it is real. And I don't know, is it extra this time than it was 4 years ago or 8 years ago?
Like anything the worst ever in our lifetime. We've never even experienced anything like this. Part of it is the professors and the high school teachers pushing for it, kind of bringing it out of people. Also, I think that Hillary Clinton's hundreds of millions of dollars of negative ads have made Donald Trump worse than even Donald Trump could possibly make himself. And he made him to a cartoon character who's the evil personified, which is just blown out of proportion.
All right, they act like he's the Babadook, and he's just sitting somewhere eating babies. That's how they have portrayed him.
But you know what? Let me just
Am
say
I
this.
right?
But let me
Yeah.
just say this, because I am one of those I didn't come up to you because I didn't run into you, but I would have
I
to give
would
you a
hug
hug.
you.
I know, thank you.
And I'll give everybody a hug.
And I need a hug because I actually am devastated in ways I was not when Bush got elected, nor would I have been if Romney got elected. I truly fear for the future of our country with somebody who I feel is so unqualified to be president, that I worry for my 4-year-old growing up under President Trump. So that fear is real. Having said that, to all the people on college campuses that are having sit-ins or protesting, one, it would have been nice if you would come out because you stayed home.
Election was last week.
Or maybe it would have been nice if you didn't write in Bernie Sanders. Or it may have been nice if you maybe mobilized and instead of having sit-ins and protesting a free and fair election, which is what we've had, and you can't protest something that was done freely even if you don't like the outcome, maybe mobilize and figure out ways to first get the House and Senate back in 2 years and then get rid of Trump in 4 years.
That is what's so annoying. Honestly, I feel like I don't diminish anybody's tears. Those are real. But what I object to is on these college campuses, canceling classes.
Unbelievable.
So that
Would
people,
they do that?
That part of being in school is learning how to function in the face of upset. You know, I mean, not to bring it back to my book again.
It's your.
However, this is, I mean,
They have to settle for more.
Truly, when you get to your job, I mean, I like, you have to function. When you get bad news, I got a lot of bad news over the course of my career as a lawyer in particular. You think the judge will tell you, no worry, you don't have to go. Like,
there's a therapy doctor.
Have a day off.
Hey, listen,
You've got to function.
Can I make these people all feel better? You try being me and sitting live on national television on election night as Donald Trump is winning and still having to keep a smile on your face. You're trying to sit there and
I feared for my country when Barack Obama was elected, and I was right because we've seen the rise of ISIS and we've seen a lot of stuff.
Right there.
That was pretty
Law and
bad.
order
I didn't wear a safety pin or a diaper pin on my lapel.
Did you
I didn't
register
go
with a
into a
registry?
safe room. I didn't I had to cancel class, and no one gave me grief canceling. But the one good thing, Megan, is that the next generation is coming up, the post 9/11 generation. My son is 15 years old. He's not a millennial. He's the post 9/11 generation. He's going to vote for the first time in 4 years from now. And this generation thinks the millennials are laughable.
So it's nice then. There's two of them.
There's a generation coming back. There's a generation coming up, the 9/11 generation.
What is that? Is that the 9/11 generation?
I just coined it right here.
The post 9/11 generation.
They're going to have
Clark Thiessen.
They're going to have great because they already understand a lot about adversity. Great to see you all. Stand by. Back next with Brian Kilmeade and some behind-the-scenes stories of 2016. So today is November 18th. And that happens to be my birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you very much. I have turned 46 today, and as I outline in my book, I'm actually very relieved to turn 46 for what's kind of a sad reason, but I think maybe you can relate if you've ever lost a parent, especially as a child. My dad was 45 when he died. I was 15. He died suddenly of a heart attack. And my whole life I have worried that I would not make it past age 45. And so somehow I've really just been looking forward to this birthday. I feel like it's a blessing. I just feel so thankful to be here and be with my kids. And this is something I know you can relate to because you also lost your dad at a young age.
Same age, in ninth grade too. And you said, but it did something for you. It put a fire underneath you, and you knew that life wasn't necessarily going to work out great unless you went ahead and pursued it. And you knew that tomorrow was not guaranteed.
Right.
So how, in retrospect, I know you wrote about it, but it really affected me when you said that made me determined to make something of myself and go ahead and make it happen. Don't wait for it to happen.
Right, because in the back of my head, there's always been this voice that says, hurry up, you're dying. I almost named the book, Hurry Up, You're Dying. Harper Collins was like,
For the holidays.
But I mean, it's not a bad reminder.
Get your Christmas shopping done now because you may be dead by December 25th.
But I mean, really, that's a motivator for me because it's just a reminder to seize the day. I realize everybody understands that. But I mean, I think if you've had great loss in your life, you know it on a gut level.
But Megan, here's the other thing, is that you realize when you go home, you feel sadness for your mom. Your mom feels sadness for you. She has to get on with her life. And then you got to get on with yours. So your house is not the same. Holidays aren't the same. And you really feel in a way, am I correct, that you're on your own?
Absolutely. And I mean, we struggled a lot. We struggled with money. We struggled just to keep our friends because my mom was set up in a couple and then suddenly she was a single and she got, it wasn't intentional, but her friends just sort of moved on from her, which was very hard for her. And now in my current life, with my kids, I just think, I look around, we live in New York, right? And there's a lot of investment bankers and people who work so hard in New York City, and that happens everywhere. But I can't do that. I can't be away from them for 12 to 15 hours every day, my kids. I get I get unhappy. I get deeply unhappy. And so it's just a reminder that time is passing. They need me and I need them, and to strike a better balance than that.
But am I right? You feel almost on a mission to reach your potential, whatever that potential is. And in law, you did it. One of your great things that happened in your life happened on your birthday with that loss that you said, "I'll never forget. This is my birthday," and then you were recognized how?
Oh, that's nice. It was my 23rd birthday, and one of the things that was transformative for me was moot court. I loved moot court. As soon as I got to law school and I saw these guys up on their feet, I thought, I can do that. And I had to wait to try out, but I finally got to try out. I practiced all summer. I wrote my argument. I was up on my feet doing my mock closing argument. I finally went into the room. I did it. I nailed it. I made the team. And at the end of this big competition we did, my teammate and I lost. However, there was an award for the best individual advocate.
And who was that?
Bye-bye, Hillman. Hello. Hello, Kelly. That was my partner. And it was a wonderful birthday, and it was a birthday that the chair of the competition said I would never forget, and she was right.
You'd reach your peak. You'd walk the streets of Chicago at night, learn television,
walk
break
the
in
streets.
with a camera.
I'm going to read this with much more interest now.
I knew this was going to be a problem. We should have made him leave.
All right, we got to go. It's called Settle for More. I know you're going to love it. I'm going to talk to you about it next week, too, I hope. And we can talk together about what you thought. Good night. Thanks.